Yo, what's up? What's going on? What's good? That's right. This is the Boxing Source Podcast here on July 22nd, 2024. This is a Monday edition of the Boxing Source Podcast. Of course, we usually have our shows on Sundays, but yesterday pretty much was like really busy and there and all that type of stuff. So pretty much like postponed it to today. And we got a few things here that we're going to be talking about in this particular podcast. So wanted to go ahead and get this going, get this thing rocking and rolling as far as what's been going down in the scene of boxing. And of course, we had the lead story, a lot of people to talk about, but, I definitely want to have my take on it. And that is in reference to comments that came from Igor Klimas, the manager of Vasyl Lomachenko. And his statements were basically that Vasyl Lomachenko at this time is not necessarily interested in the fight with Gervonta Tank Davis. So you would have the IBF champion in Vasyl Lomachenko, but possibly facing the WBA champion at lightweight in Gervonta Tank Davis. But according to Lomachenko's manager, Igor Klimas, it's like right now he's not interested in that particular fight. And, that has pretty much sent a few shockwaves within the boxing world because, hey, man, when it comes to Tank Davis, some folks say he's the face of boxing. Some folks say that, he's one of the most exciting fighters out there in the sport. Pretty much have him included in the pound for pound top 10 with Tank Davis there, of course. He's there, floating around there within the top 5 of the Boxing Source pound for pound rankings, right? And you would have Vasyl Lomachenko, of course, also multi-division world champion, had been a unified champion in the lightweight division before losing to Teofimo Lopez, but was able to regain the IBF world championship with his win over George Kambosos Jr. And so, after he had his win, he was able to stop George Kambosos, had like a whole lot of momentum, a lot of confidence, seemed like he was, feeling good, feeling great. And then it was like right after that, it was like, hey, you know what? Maybe we could have this fight. Tank Davis said, hey, let's go after Vasyl Lomachenko. And it looked like everything was going pretty well when it was coming to negotiations as far as like, who was going to make what, how this was going to be, televised, like who was going to handle that. Pretty much like, given a date range for, those type of things. And, almost looked all but settled or all but set that the fight could take place. But then this, report had came out in reference to Vasyl Lomachenko saying that it's not necessarily the money that's, issue that is personal, for personal reasons. He's not necessarily fully committed to facing Tank Davis or saying that he's fully committed to fighting Tank Davis at this particular time. And now it's like a lot of people are like saying, whoa, is this the same Vasyl Lomachenko that everybody said, oh, he'll take on all challengers. Oh, he's one of those pound for pound all-time greats or something like that. And now he's saying, oh, he's not necessarily interested in fighting about or getting in the bout there against Gervonta Tank Davis as well. Shout out to Bruce Gas here in the building. Salute to you, Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz and More. Of course, he has a channel here on YouTube. Go check him out. Talks boxing, talks jazz, talks other recreational stuff, if you know what I mean. So you'll be able to check out Bruce Gas if you haven't done so already. Your brother Matt Gomez here, of course. Shout out to Matt Gomez. He says, we have seen this before. We know this is about the money. Well, maybe it is. The thing with Vasyl Lomachenko, when it comes to a number of the fights that he's been involved in that are, been pretty big to this particular point, like it's almost like he really ain't had much of an issue as far as like, money and splits and that type of stuff. But I mean, he only had like what, maybe one or two fights that are kind of like high profile, maybe three fights you could say are pretty much like high profile. Recently, when it comes to Vasyl Lomachenko, particularly in the lightweight division, when you have the Teofimo Lopez fight, which was there under lockdown 2020. You had the fight with Devin Haney. That was a pay-per-view fight where Devin Haney pretty much like got the lion's share of the purse, given his initial asking price walking into the fight, as he was the defending undisputed lightweight champion at the time. And then you had the fight against George Kambosos Jr., where, it's pretty much, Australia backing up their truck, so to speak, to have Vasyl Lomachenko be over there in Australia for that particular fight. But outside of that, you really don't have, a lot of back and forth when it comes to money, or at least you don't necessarily hear it that much when it comes to Vasyl Lomachenko. But here, in this case, I don't know. Maybe they do, because they might know, how lucrative this fight is going to be against Gervonta Tank Davis. And then the other thing is too, at least, I've been pretty much saying that this might be the one where Tank Davis does what no other fighter is able to do about Vasyl Lomachenko, and that's knock him out or basically stop him. And the thing is, it's almost like some people are saying that this might be, maybe, Lomachenko's the tail end of Lomachenko's career, and that if he, ends up getting knocked out, or maybe like knocked out, like, how Frank Martin got knocked out, then it might be a wrap for Vasyl Lomachenko. So maybe, we got his team, out there. Of course, he gets Klimas that, manages multiple fighters out there that's based in the Ukraine, that, maybe he could say, hey, listen, maybe I need to get a little bit more, off the percentage there in this. But, as I was mentioning before, right, it seemed like all parties involved were agreeing to the terms when it came to the financials and all that type of stuff. And it just looked like, Lomachenko had said, hey, man, I know ready for a fight. No ready for fight or something like that. But yeah, I'm like, yo, you mean to tell me that, after all this time, folks have talked about this, for years, particularly when both fighters were in the 130-pound division, that people thought that the fight could have taken place then. And then there was a whole lot of talk about one particular side claiming that one particular side didn't want the fight. Well, now here we are years later, and we basically get this thing here where now you see that the fight could pretty much be made. It's really close to being made. And then you have something like this happen. But, what I was talking about earlier, as far as like the whole opposite side of the street type of stuff, Matt, we've seen this before, particularly when we talk about Top Rank, right? I mean, how many times? This is pretty much what be like the third time or something like that, where you could have a quote unquote big fight or a fight of a grand magnitude that involves two fighters, right, that had been paired up for years and years and years, and that one side was, ducking another, and then, later on down the line, the fight actually happens. You know what I'm saying? Of course, many years ago, you had the whole thing with Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, right? Okay. Top Rank. Okay. Actually, even before that, you had Floyd Mayweather and Miguel Cotto. Top Rank. Right? Okay. Let's fast forward. What do we have up to last year? Errol Spence Terrence Crawford, top rank. Now, what do we have? Tank Davis, Vasyl Lomachenko. Do I have to say it again? So that's the thing about it, though. But in this particular case, you have it where top rank, whether it's Bob Arum or Carl Moretti or Bruce Trampler or I keep forgetting the other guy that's mainly involved there with top rank. But they're saying that at this particular point, they feel like the fight between Tank Davis and Vasyl Lomachenko is lucrative enough to where they could work together and get a deal where all parties will be able to make some good money off of that. This is not that much different than when they worked together for those two fights between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. So they're seeing if they can set it up like this here one more time. But now you're going to have Amazon Prime pay-per-view as one of the folks that's going to televise it alongside ESPN Plus. It would be, as far as like the plans are concerned, right? So that's how that will work out. But now it looks like maybe Vasyl Lomachenko is not interested, at least up to this particular point. He's saying that he's not interested in the fight there against Tank Davis. So what does that mean if he's completely out? Let's just say Vasyl Lomachenko is not interested in fighting Tank Davis, not even this year, and wants to take a full break for the rest of the year. So he would have that one fight, I guess, against George Kambosos, and that would be it for the rest of the year for Vasyl Lomachenko. So let's say he's out. Now, what does that leave? Or where does that leave Tank Davis? I mean, of course, with him being the most lucrative fighter out there within that particular division and multiple divisions, so to speak. And yes, that includes a guy that fought at 147 and is currently going to be fighting 154. That's going to be a whole nother story here later. But when it comes to Tank Davis, you have these multitude of opponents that you could choose from. Okay. You're going to have, maybe William Zepeda. That's, outside shot. William Zepeda, maybe. Some folks are kind of like bringing up Isaac Cruz Gonzalez, as I say. He does have an upcoming fight on August 3rd against Rayo Valenzuela, right, for that 140-pound title that Isaac Cruz currently has. Now, I'm leaning towards Isaac Cruz winning that particular fight. Some people are saying that it might be an upset. I don't know. But if Isaac Cruz gets through that particular fight, then, some people will probably strike up the buzz for a rematch between Tank Davis and Isaac Cruz. That would be at 140 pounds. But this opens the door for another unification fight at 135 pounds that involves the WBC lightweight champion Shakur Stevenson. Yes, I did say the full name right there. Right? So Shakur Stevenson now basically is saying, hey, I'll step up. I'll be the one that could get in there and fight Tank Davis and be the super fight. And instead of waiting until 2025, which, a lot of, people kind of projected for that potential fight between Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson, why not have it next? You got the whole thing with Shakur, currently going through the whole thing as far as being a free agent. Yes, he's talked with, Matchroom Boxing. Yes, he's talked with Golden Boy Boxing. There's another, promotional company that he's also pretty much talked to that, some may say that he may end up signing with. But that remains to be seen here at this particular point. But, as of right now, you can enter in Shakur Stevenson's name in the hat. Now, me, I'm kind of the whole thing where not only do I just look at it as far as a potential matchup, in the ring, but I also look at the intangibles outside of the ring. And of course, that deals with the whole financial stuff with it, right? Okay, bet. So y'all all know that the reports was out in reference to Shakur Stevenson when he initially turned down the offer for Top Rank to re-sign with Top Rank that it was going to be a minimum guaranteed $15 million for 5 fights. So that's an average of $3 million on average per fight for Shakur Stevenson on that particular deal. So he rejected that. He was on, looking to see who else he could, work with, who he could sign with, and who could, pretty much like offer him a little bit more than $3 million per fight. As I said, he spoke with Eddie Hearn in Matchroom. That was pretty much last week or over a week ago, over in Philadelphia. He was out there for that fight card that included Boots there that defeated Avanesian. So he was chopping it up with Eddie Hearn. You had the whole thing with Golden Boy where, you had the WBC that ordered Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda for that WBC title. And they gave him, such amount of days in order to work that out. As of right now, they ain't got nothing worked out. They're supposed to have a purse bid that's scheduled. I think it was supposed to be like August, around August, late August, when that's supposed to happen, right? So as of right now, you ain't got nothing that's saying that's going to go ahead and happen. So as of right now, what I say, I'll go ahead and confirm this joint, man. That they said it would be, it would pretty much be like around that August 26th or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So here's that. You know what I'm saying? Hold up real quick. Oh, it said what happened with the Terrence Crawford versus Jamel Charlo. Well, we had the whole thing with Jamel Charlo, just after his fight against Canelo Alvarez. You had, of course, with Terrence Crawford defeating Errol Spence, Jamel Charlo was there in attendance for that. But he was, locked into, fight Canelo Alvarez, last September. And, we went through those 12 rounds, got knocked down in that. Was a clear decision win for Canelo Alvarez. For Jamel Charlo, he got paid. He basically got paid up for that. And, got in a little bit of, issues there near the tail end of the year. And so we hadn't necessarily heard, much from Jamel Charlo since then. As of what it was last week there, where we were chopping it up with Coach Ronnie Shields, of course, his trainer, that, we haven't had much of an update yet when it comes to Jamel Charlo. But, I mean, he's, still out and about. But as far as, like, being in the gym and preparing for something, we haven't had any, clear update on that as of yet, You also say, like, hey, you feel Shakur is seriously good. You watch with your eyes, and that's what else. I mean, a lot of people say he's really good. He's really good. The thing is, of course, I have him listed on the Boxing Source pound for pound top 10. It's just that, as a lot of people have kind of like said over the past couple of weeks, for him to be closer to a complete fighter, they want to see, the element of him, being able to straight dominate and stop people, like just like if the fighters are not supposed to be in a ring with him, then he's got to just wash them, like his fight that he had against Shichiro Yoshino, right over in Newark, couple years back, whatever it was, right? Like something like that, or like maybe his performance that he had against Jamel Herring, show those type of elements against these fighters that you're going up against, and maybe you'll have more people fully buying into Shakur Stevenson. But as of right now, given what he had, that performance against Artem Hartunian in Newark a couple of weeks ago, that maybe folks are having doubts in reference to Shakur Stevenson when it comes to if he faces like a Tank Davis, or as they say, they compare him to like, a Devin Haney maybe, or something like that. Or even, even if he went up to, 140 or something and said, hey, maybe you would face like uh, said Teofimo Lopez. Yeah, Teofimo Lopez. Like if he moved up to 140 and fought Teofimo Lopez, would you be fully confident that he would be able to defeat Teofimo Lopez? I would lean towards it because of his style. His initial style is completely wrong for Teofimo Lopez. But is it something to where you would say, oh man, like man, Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez? Wow, that would be something. I don't know if a lot of boxing fans and those that are like from the outside looking in would kind of like be presented that particular fight or that particular matchup and be like, wow. When you bring up like a Tank Davis, it don't matter who the opponent is. You're like, wow, it's Tank Davis. You know what I'm saying? So maybe Shakur Stevenson might need like a fight like that before facing Tank Davis, but I don't know. I don't know about that. Now, my suggestion would be if he doesn't fight Tank Davis next, fight Frank Martin next. Frank Martin is coming off, of course, his loss to Tank Davis, where he had a couple of moments there where he looked like he was doing good, moving around, but Tank Davis does have those instances where he's like, you know what? I'll allow you to do what you do in order to be comfortable and see if you think that I'm really affected by what you're doing. And then once you get to that level of comfort, then I'm gonna turn it on and then see if you could, take the pressure basically of what my offense and what I'm able to do as far as like make adjustments and everything like that. If you can't, it's it. That's a wrap. You're done. And that's pretty much what Tank Davis did there against Frank Martin last month. So now it's like you have Tank Davis, and if he has that potential matchup against Shakur Stevenson, yeah, it would be a really big matchup there in the 135-pound division. Probably right now, that's the biggest fight there left in the lightweight division is Tank Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. But we it still remains to be seen as to how that's going to work out. Now, there are some that say, with the whole thing with Lomachenko, that it's almost like a whole, as you were mentioning there, Matt Gomez here with me, that it's some posturing, that it's a negotiation tactic, that they're trying to see if they can get a little bit more out of this, maybe get more in the percentage of the pay-per-view, or whatever it is, to say, hey, you know what, just give us a little bit more here on this end, and then we'll be fully committed, we'll be fully locked in, and we'll work towards it. But I just felt like it was very weird that you were going to say, hey, you know what, I'm not necessarily interested. If you, as I'm saying, Lomachenko, if you were set on trying to become the undisputed lightweight champion, you were pretty much short. You fell short against Devin Haney, but now you have this opportunity to kind of like build yourself back. You already got one title, like I said, like you went up against George Kambosos for that IBF championship. What, you just doing it just to win the IBF championship and that's it? Nah, you want to go for everything, right? So if you have that opportunity, and on top of that, you're going up against the biggest draw in the lightweight division by far, got to go ahead and take that chance, right? It ain't like you're going to fight Dennis Berinchik. Like, what you going to get to fight Dennis Berinchik? Just real talk. If it was fight between two countrymen, two countrymen, y'all be able to make money. Cool. But where you gonna hold it at? You ain't gonna have it at no MGM. You ain't gonna have it at no what is it, Michelob Ultra Arena over there at Mandalay Bay over in Las Vegas. You ain't gonna have it over there. You might not even be able to hold it at the actual Madison Square Garden. You might be able to hold it at the theater at Madison Square Garden. And even then, you probably still wouldn't be able to pull a good amount of people to see that fight live. So if you know that you ain't gonna get that much out of fighting Dennis Berinchik, you already seen what happened here with Top Rank when it comes to Shakur Stevenson, because Shakur Stevenson was looking for that fight with Vasyl Lomachenko, and just looks like they don't necessarily want to give that fight to him. So, with that being the case, where else are you gonna go, Vasyl Lomachenko? Who else you gonna fight? You ain't gonna fight no Williams Zepeda. That ain't gonna happen. There ain't no other contenders out there where you're gonna be going ahead and fighting them at this particular juncture. That ain't happening. Lightweight division is pretty good, but like, what you gonna do? Fight Keyshawn Davis? Would you fight Keyshawn Davis as your defense of that IBF championship? I don't think so. So what else is left for Vasyl Lomachenko outside of going ahead and fighting Gervonta Tank Davis? Let's see about that. What is this? Nah, man. Nah, what in the world is this? Nah, man. First of all, why would you have a fighter that's at 135 fighting a fighter at 147 with this Rosen and Sal versus Brian Norman? That ain't happening. Shockey Foster versus Zepeda, maybe, for the whole thing in reference to that's still two different, weight classes there. Lightweight and super featherweight. So that's number one. That's out. Number two, WBC had basically ordered for that rematch with Robeson Conceição and Shockey Foster to go ahead and take place. Now, when it comes to that, we might be able to see that. Let's see. This was early July, maybe late September. If not late September, then maybe early to mid-October, we might see the rematch between those two fighters. But also, they might have it to where they have that particular rematch and have the rematch with Robert C. Ramirez there, when he had lost that WBO title at featherweight to Rafael Espinoza. So you can have Rafael Espinoza against Robeisy Ramirez in the rematch, and you can have Robeson Conceição and Shockey Foster in a rematch on the same card there for Top Rank. So you pretty much could have that set up right there, right? So that's how that goes. But back to the whole joint with Vasyl Lomachenko. Like I said, what other opponents are out there for Vasyl Lomachenko to fight outside of Tank Davis that looks fairly realistic at this point? Williams Zepeda? Nah. Not after, like I said, they all ordered that WBC mandatory. So unless the IBF says, hey, Williams Zepeda is ordered to fight Vasyl Lomachenko for the IBF title, then that ain't it. That ain't it there either. And I did mention Keyshawn Davis. Nah, they ain't gonna do that. Ray Murataya, he just had that fight there against Tevin Farmer, right? They ain't gonna make that fight. I don't know. To me, I have absolutely no clue as to what Top Rank is doing with Ray Murataya. You got, like I said, you had Shakur Stevenson there. You got Vasyl Lomachenko, right? You got Keyshawn Davis. You got Ray Murataya. You got you got Abdullah Mason. That's gonna be in the rankings here really soon. You feel me? And none of those guys have fought each other. None of them. None. You got all those guys there in Top Rank at lightweight, and you ain't making those fights. Like, come on, what are we doing? What are we doing? They're gonna have to do something to where those guys are gonna have to be matched up against each other, one way or another. Well, with the exception, of course, with Shakur Stevenson, since they ain't it, So that's it. Says Lomachenko had problems with Orlando Salida. Zepeda is two Salidos in one. Yeah, I mean, the thing with Lomachenko does have issues with those type of guys that like to get in the trenches and work, but it also depends on the referee for that particular fight and how Lomachenko reacts to some of those, things with the clinching and the working around that and all that type of stuff. How Lomachenko responds to that, and if the referee either allows it or says, "Hey, man, you can't necessarily do all of that type of stuff." You feel me? But with that being said, like you're gonna have to like see if Zepeda would be able to work a deal with something like that. You know what I mean? So, hey, I'm like, you might as well go ahead and just have that thing there with Lomachenko and Tank Davis to pretty much like just go ahead and happen. Like, why not? Because the thing is, one, I don't think Tank Davis is going to wait, until past this year's done to have another fight. And for Lomachenko, I feel like it's best for him to get right back in the ring. Like I mean, like as they say, he ain't no spring chicken, right? He's out there right now at 36 years old. So you mean to tell me that Vasyl Lomachenko won't have another fight this year, and then we'll have a fight next year where he's going to be 37 years old or something like that? Like we that wouldn't be a good look. At least for me, I don't think it would be a good look for Lomachenko to go ahead and wait until next year to have another fight. You had a fight just a couple months ago against George Kambosos where you won that IBF lightweight title. Have another fight here in November or December. Pretty much have like a 5 or 6 month gap or whatever it is. Like I don't understand why fighters of this caliber don't have like 2 or 3 fights a year. I don't understand it. Like having one fight a year, like ain't gonna cut it. Like it ain't gonna cut it. You need to have 2 or 3 fights a year to try to say, hey, you know what? Get myself fresh, being back in the ring, all that type of stuff. That's the thing about it. But I don't know. It's like either they say, you know what, the money isn't right, or they might have it to where it's like maybe I'm not in the condition to have another fight. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, like we got to see if there's going to be something to where maybe they could still work something out between Vasyl Lomachenko and Tank Davis to go ahead and have that fight happen. But on the flip side, as I was mentioning earlier, with the potential of having Shakur Stevenson step in, we had these conversations over the past couple of days. Shout out to Coach Kenny Ellis, of course, who pretty much like calls me Riddick Bowe. That was saying there, what was it on Mill City Boxing, that hey, you know what? I don't mind having Tank Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. And over the past couple of days, Tank Davis and not Tank Davis, but Coach Kenny Ellis and Shakur Stevenson have had conversations in reference to that particular fight possibly happening. And I think it was last year that Kenny Ellis was like kind of saying that, you know what, we really like to face Shakur Stevenson or have Tank Davis fight Shakur Stevenson at that particular point. But, it still remains to be seen how, if they're going to be able to work something out. Like I was saying before, Shakur Stevenson, was asking for like minimum $3 million guaranteed for a fight against Tank Davis. He's potentially looking to make 15 million, maybe 15 million or more for that fight against Tank Davis. So I don't know, maybe they could work on something where he has a base salary or a base purse there, and then the pay-per-view would be crazy. Probably be crazy for that. At this particular point, as much as pay-per-views cost these days, you don't need to, have like a whole million or so pay-per-views or whatever it is. You don't need that. You just need around maybe 400, 500K to start making some money, Get that, man. What is it? Prime Pernell Whitaker versus Prime Hector Camacho, same politics? Probably. The thing with Whitaker was like Whitaker, Pernell Whitaker is like one of my favorite fighters of all time. Favorite pound for pound fighters of all time. We've seen what he did initially there with Julio Cesar Chavez, and we saw what the result was for that, right? They wouldn't give him the full credit. Judge wouldn't give him the full credit, wouldn't give him the full win, But like, something there where, maybe you would face a Camacho. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they would have had something like that, anyway. I think they was like way off because how much did Camacho like throw up to? Because he was like up to middleweight. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think it would have happened, man. Because by the time he was above 147 was like 95, and that was early in Camacho's career. So those weight classes wouldn't have matched up. They wouldn't have matched up by that time. So yeah, Oscar like fought Camacho there in 97, right? He fought, and was seeing when was that thing with so he pretty much fought in like the same year. So I mean it could have happened, but the thing with Camacho was like after that fight against Oscar, he went up to 160, So that was the thing about it. Like you go from fighting Sugar Ray Leonard, stopping Sugar Ray Leonard at 160, pretty much in the middleweight division, and then going down to welterweight to fight Oscar De La Hoya in your next fight 6 months later. That's wild. That is wild. You know what I'm saying? Hey, what's going on? Android, a shout out to Android Uppercut. Android, they're 1883 with the contribution there. We appreciate that at the Boxing Source. You know what I'm saying? You could, get us the super chats. We got Cash App, the Boxing Source, to help contribute to the movement. He says, "Are you confident about the second half boxing schedule? It's looking a bit shaky. I hope we get some pleasant surprises." Yeah, I don't know, man. I have to see, how it shapes up. Not a lot of things have been locked down as far as like any potential matchups. We're pretty much in the second half of the year. We got, of course, the card that's coming up on August 3rd over in Los Angeles. We got to see what's going on with, and then the week after, you're going to have Virgil Ortiz Jr. there against Sergey Boychuk. That's going to be at the Michelob Ultra Arena in Las Vegas, right? But after that, you got, Caleb Plant there facing Trevor McCumbee. And you got, Ronnie Rios there against Stephen Fulton. That's going to be on that card. That's supposed to be over in Orlando. After that, you really don't have that much that's locked down as of yet. We know about the news, the news that we thought that we were going to have, last weekend when it came to David Benavidez, but that decision hadn't been made yet. So we got to see if David Benavidez is going to say, "Hey, I'm staying at I'm going to stay at 175 as I'm the interim champion at 175, or am I going to go back to 168 pounds?" But to me, the only reason why he would go back down to 168 pounds is if it is absolutely certain that he is going to fight Santos Saul Alvarez Barragan for the undisputed super middleweight titles. Outside of that, there is no point for David Benavidez to go back down to 168. There's no point. you're going to have, like, there's no other fights that are out there for him at 168 at this point. Christian and Billy, he's going to be fighting Sergey Derevyanchenko. So that's out. David Morrell is going to be fighting at 175 on August 3rd. So any other potential matchups that people could think about for David Benavidez at 168, there's really not much sense for that. There's only one fight, and that's Canelo Alvarez. If that ain't there, if that's not out there for him, there's no point for him to go back down to 168. Where at 175, he could be the WBC interim champion and either have a fight for the vacant WBC title, or he could fight Dimitri Bivol. Me saying that means Dimitri Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. That ain't looking all too hot. So that's the thing. Surprises. I don't know what would be surprises. Like what would be potential surprises there for you as far as like the second half? Because the other thing too was one fight that was kind of brought up that could be involved or part of the second half of the year was Errol Spence Jr. versus Sebastian Fundora for Fundora's WBC and WBO super welterweight titles. But the thing about it is that, hey, we got to have an update there when it comes to Sebastian Fundora. I've been trying to catch up with this promoter there, Samson Lukowicz, in reference to that. Hopefully I do get in touch with them here within the next couple of days. But if y'all follow what was happening there with the WBO as he held the WBO title, right, that when they put in the exemption request there for Sebastian Fundora for what happened in the fight against Tim Tszyu, was that they pretty much said, as far as like TGB or whatever it is, that Fundora might not be fully cleared to even train until September. Now, folks were talking about Spence versus Fundora being in October. If that was the case, why would they say that he's not cleared until September? So if he's not cleared to train until September, that fight ain't happening in October. That's just not happening. You feel me? So that's the whole thing about it. I'm not all too certain as to what else is potentially out there in the second half of the year. But I'll say this. There's one fight that I am looking forward to in the second half of the year in September, and that is that heavyweight bout, Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois for the IBF Heavyweight Championship. Definitely looking forward to that. So there's that. And then, yeah, we're going to have the rematch. Tyson Fury or Alexander Usyk scheduled for December. We'll see if there's going to actually be a rematch. Big ups to Urban Sports Scene in the building. What's good with you, man? What's good? You feel me? Matt Gomez says David versus Zerdo or Anthony Yard. Man, I don't know, man. The way that they have it for David Benavidez, it's either going to be something where he's at the point where he would be featured in a fight or be part of a real co-feature bout or something like that. Like Anthony Yard, maybe if they say, you know what, Beterbiev is like not slated to fight this year, and the WBC makes that move to strip him, which I'm not confident in that, but they'll say, hey, maybe you could have Benavidez versus Anthony Yard, and that'll be either for the defense of that interim title or for the full title. But I would say the WBC would have to contact David Benavidez and his representatives and say, hey, this could be possible for you if you say, hey, I'll be there at 175 or at 168. Now, there had been something out in reference to this as far as like potential opponents or things like that. Shout out to Brother Matt there at Brunch Boxing that had an article in reference to David Benavidez and his potential options at 168 and 175. But, like I said, I mean, for 168, for me, if it ain't Canelo Alvarez, there's no point of David Benavidez being at 168. There isn't. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Android. Yeah, Joshua versus Dubois. I'm telling you, that's gonna be an event out there at Wembley Stadium. It's going to be an event at Wembley Stadium for sure, because you got Daniel Dubois, of course, getting some confidence there. Of course, being able to stop Jarrell Miller, right? Being able to stop Philip Hergovich. But now you got Anthony Joshua, of course, two-time unified heavyweight champion, looking to become world champion once again. Has this opportunity to become a three-time world champion, right? And has had those fights where he had the Jermaine Franklin fight. He had that Robert Helenius fight. He had the fight with Otto Wallin, and then he had the thing there with Francis Ngannou. So he had like 4 fights where he's staying active, he's staying sharp, he's staying fresh. And he got the fight, and he got the thing there where he has his trainer, Ben Davison, that some people are saying that's looking like a good pairing with those two. So, hey, we'll see how that goes. But I'm looking forward to it. And I kind of like said this many times over, whether it's on here or on Twitter or Twitter Spaces. I got Joshua winning this, and it shouldn't go past 5 rounds. It really shouldn't. So there's that. What you said? Edgar Berlanga versus Caleb Plant. We should have Edgar Berlanga versus Caleb Plant instead of Caleb Plant versus Trevor McCumbee. But this is basically what we have here right now. Berlanga, what is Berlanga at? He's still, what is he with? Golden Boy. Is Edgar Berlanga there with freaking nah, he can't be with, he's with Golden Boy, man. He gotta be with Golden Boy, because he was there with Top Rank, of course. That's who built him up, basically, but now he's there, 22-0. Oh yeah, that's right. He had the whole thing with Matchroom. He's there with Matchroom, right? Yeah, so Caleb Plant and yeah, I don't see that, man. I definitely don't see that happening anytime soon. Shoot, we could have had Caleb Plant versus Jamal Charlo, but we ain't even having that either, So there's basically that, man. So I mean, you can still have some good matchups out there in the super middleweight division that don't involve Canelo Alvarez and David Benavidez, right? You can have those type of matchups, right? But when it comes to the top of the super middleweight division, there's only 2 fighters out there. Like, come on. We had it last year when you had the whole thing there at welterweight, right? Had it there with, of course, Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, right? You had it there at super bantamweight with Stephen Fulton and Naoya Inoue, right? So why not have it here at super middleweight, number 1 versus number 2, Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez? Like, why not? There's nothing else left. Like I said with Benavidez, right? Previous year, he already beat a top 5 guy, basically, in Caleb Plant. And he had his fight against Demetrius Andrade, who could have been rated there among the top 10 at super middleweight. So outside of that, there's nothing else left for David Benavidez, So and on the side with Canelo, right? Okay, you could face your WBO mandatory and John Ryder. Years ago, you could face your WBC mandatory there, right? You could face your WBC mandatory years ago when you faced Abner Yildirim. But you can't face your supposed WBC mandatory and David Benavidez. Like, nah, man, nah. That don't fly. So I say, you know what? There's nothing else left out there for Canelo Alvarez right now at this point than David Benavidez. No, I don't want to see no Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Crawford. No, I don't want to see that. I don't. That's not it. That's not it. You know. So there's that. What do you say? Andy Ruiz called out Benavidez. You talking about Andy Ruiz Jr.? You mean the I'm very thankful for this opportunity, to fight. Thank Anthony Joshua. I got the belts. I became a star, but I messed it up. You talking about that Andy Ruiz? You talking about the Andy Ruiz that's supposed to be fighting Jarrell Miller on August 3rd? That Andy Ruiz? Oh man, I don't know, man. That's wild. That is wild. But hey, in this day and age, like I said, social media type stuff, like you could see posts here and there. You can have spaces that are opened up where you could get news by the second if you ain't keen or whatever's happening or whatnot. But yeah, Andy Ruiz calling out Benavidez like he wants Benavidez a heavyweight. Like, come on, man. That's the wildest there. That's the wildest. Andrew says, hey, maybe we get Plant versus Morrell after Plant's tune-up. Against Trevor McCumbee, you gotta have him against McCumbee on August 17th. You're gonna have Morrell against Vijay Kalajic on August 3rd. And that's at 175. Now, I might chop it up with Coach Ronnie Shields. Of course, he's Coach David Morrell Jr. as well. And maybe he says after this that he'll go back down to 168 to try to go after some of those guys. But like I said, I really don't see the point in some of these fighters. They're 168, they're staying at 168 unless they fight Benavidez. Actually, David Morrell's in the same position as David Benavidez. He had the WBA world title and was supposed to be basically the top contender there in the WBA. Coach Ronnie Shields kind of mentioned it for the past year and a half. All the fighters that were basically number one in the WBA in the WBA rankings ended up facing David Morrell instead of David Morrell facing Canelo Alvarez or that top fighter facing Canelo Alvarez. So they basically said, hey, at this point, what are we doing? Let's just go ahead and go at 175 and try that out. Feel me? Morrell Benavidez would be dope. I said this for a while that particular fight wouldn't happen unless it's at 175. And the thing about it is that right now, Benavidez pretty much needs that fight against Canelo Alvarez, man. Even though Morrell, is pretty much pursued that fight with David Benavidez, that fight shouldn't necessarily be out there, just being real, shouldn't necessarily be out there until we kind of see if we have David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez fight each other. So, you know what I'm saying? He says David Benavidez rocks around at cruiserweight. Yeah. Yep. He definitely does. If you see, y'all saw that fight that David Benavidez had against Demetrius Andrade, you basically saw someone that looked like a cruiserweight against a guy that looked still like he was at middleweight. Man, come on, man. Jamal. But hey, remember that fight was supposed to happen what was that? A couple years ago on June of 2022. Remember, they were supposed to have that as one of those the Juneteenth weekend fights. You had a Juneteenth belt or whatever it is. Everything looked like it was going to be set in stone and signed and everything like that. And then all of a sudden, McGee's team and Golden Boy, they pulled off out of that fight. And then that was that, So it is what it is. But Munguia, Golden Boy, they're still going to try to build up Munguia. I think they're going to have him, have a couple more fights there at super middleweight until they see what happens with Canelo Alvarez, and then once Canelo Alvarez is done, they're at super middleweight, then they're gonna push Munguia to try to probably fight for one of those belts. Canelo versus Benavidez at AT&T Stadium, much bigger than Canelo versus Crawford. Yes, it's much bigger than Canelo versus Crawford. AT&T Stadium, nah, it wouldn't be there. The thing with AT&T Stadium being in Texas, the different price point, like they would make more money having a fight even at MGM Green Garden Arena than having it at AT&T Stadium. But they would have this particular fight over in T-Mobile Arena, like, of course. I mean, Canelo had to fight against Munguia at T-Mobile Arena. So, and hey, here's the thing, right? Remember the whole thing with Canelo Alvarez? I think it was Canelo Alvarez that was saying, you know what, I'm not facing a fellow Mexican. I think he said something like that some years back that he wouldn't fight another Mexican. And then he ends up fighting Jaime Munguia. And some don't necessarily fully count David Benavidez as Mexican, but he's Mexican American, whatever. But you mean to tell me you could fight Jaime Munguia to go against your word, but you ain't going up against David Benavidez? Come on, man. Like, what are we doing? But yeah, Canelo Crawford, this whole thing about, Turkey LLC, all that type of stuff. Nah, I just don't see that. Oh, but real quick on that note there with Terrence Crawford, right? Of course, he has he headlines that fight against Israel Makhachev, August 3rd, BMO Stadium, Los Angeles, 22,000 seat arena. Y'all see them ticket prices, man. The ticket prices crazy. And like I said it before, them ticket prices crazy, bro. Like nosebleed seats are almost like 300. Woo. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. But the other thing too, this is part of Riyadh season, right? Is the first Riyadh season type event, that's going to be here in the States, right? So y'all seen the other Riyadh season events that they had, the whole joint with Fury versus Ngannou, the Day of Reckoning with all of them heavyweights in there, the joint with Joshua and Ngannou. You had the whole thing with the June 1st stuff too, right? The 5v5. And y'all know all of them joints was about 6 to 7 hours long. You know what I'm saying? And then I check this thing out of Ticketmaster, and I see that the time on there is 1 p.m. Oh my God. So you mean to tell me that they're going to start this event at 1 p.m. Pacific time out there August? Well, it's Los Angeles, so I mean California ain't too bad when it comes to the summer and that type of stuff. But 1 o'clock, come on, man. What are we doing? Nah. Like ain't nobody sitting 5-6 hours, for a whole full card, and you're gonna have Eminem performing on this thing. No, man, nah. This is the whole Riyadh season event type stuff like that. That's I don't know, man. I don't know if I'll be able to do all of that. I'll show up at like 5:30. You know what I'm saying? 5:30. Yeah, man. Come on. Like, hey, come on, Android. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like y'all seen it. Like, listen, had the joint there with the pay-per-view with the Day of Reckoning. You know what I'm saying? It started at, what did it start at? About Eastern time, about like 11 a.m. or something. And it didn't end until 6 p.m. Eastern time. Like, come on, man. We can't do that. Like, that ain't what we do over here. Like, we have cards that basically start, let's say, what I say, like for example, right? That Canelo Munguia, right? Started about like 3:30 Pacific time, and it ended at about what I'd say 8, around 8 or something. So yeah, like that's crazy. And with all of those magnitude of event fights, so to speak, nah, man, like nah, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Could not do it. So yeah, 11-7, man. Yeah, the 5v5 was like 1 to 8 Eastern time. Like, and imagine then there where they're over in Riyadh. So they're fighting at like freaking 1 a.m. or 3 a.m. or something like that. Like, come on, what are we doing? You know? He said Matt Gomez once a welterweight champion, getting a super middleweight champion. Why not Terrence Crawford? Yeah, I know that some people say that there's weight classes for a reason, and they might bring that up with this thing here with Terrence Crawford, with Canelo Alvarez. But I mentioned this before. It's not really about the thing with the weight classes. If I would say this, Turkey LLC still got money to, still got money to spend, still got money to blow, whatever it is, go right ahead. Because Terrence Crawford is reportedly getting about over 15 million for his fight against Israel Manjamalov on August 3rd. So if that's the case, like I said before, imagine how much money he would want for a fight against Canelo Alvarez. And on the flip side, how much money Canelo Alvarez would want in a fight against Terrence Crawford. Yeah, I don't know. Will PBC join Turkey LLC? Not fully, no. This was, kind of like part of the rumor mill sometime back, but no. I mean, you might have some fighters that are supposedly, PBC or Heyman fighters that are involved in this card coming up on August 3rd, but not fully committed to that type of stuff there for Turkey LLC and Riyadh season and that type of thing. Maybe you might have 1 or 2 fighters, maybe, but the whole thing is, they're not fully, involved with Turkey LLC, given potentially who Turkey LLC also could be involved with, and who he could potentially be involved with is somebody that Heyman and them don't deal with any way whatsoever. So that's why, that pretty much is like out the window. But yeah, that's mainly the whole thing of what's going down August 3rd. It's coming up. Like I said, it's a couple of weeks. It's a couple of weeks away. We have this thing here this weekend. You're supposed to have the fight card there. That's supposed to be, I think it's on the Zone. I gotta get the full fight card there. Of course, this is part of that Big Time Boxing USA. They're in Detroit, Little Caesars Arena in Detroit. You're gonna have Clarissa Shields going up against Vanessa Jones there for the unified, so to speak, heavyweight championships. They're the Little Caesars Arena. I was supposed to see if I could have Demetrius Salita on through the Instagram joint, but probably have to table that a little bit. I don't know if I'll be able to reach him tomorrow. If I can't reach him tomorrow, then it's unlikely I'll be able to reach him, because Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that's pretty much going to be the fight week events there over in Detroit there. So, you pretty much could prepare yourself for that. He's going to have a number of his fighters featured on that Big Time Boxing USA card that will be on the Zone. To me, up to this particular point, this is going to be like his biggest event there for the Big Time Boxing USA by far, because I think he had the previous Big Time Boxing USA cards in Wayne State University, I think it was. But here, of course, you're going to have Clarissa Shields there vying for heavyweight championships. You're going to have Daniel Perkins also there that's going to be fighting on this card. Another one of his fighters there in Shojan Ergashev. They're in the super lightweight division. Of course, we had that fight against Subriel Matias some time back. He's going to be back in there against Julian Smith. New signee, Michelle Rivera, there that's in the super lightweight division, is going to go up against Hugo Rodon on that fight card as well. So you're going to have some, notable people on there on that fight card that's going to be on Saturday. So just looking forward to that there. And then, like I said, August 3rd, you're going to have that fight card over in Los Angeles. Maybe I'll be there, maybe not. Depends on how things go. That would be an absolute last minute decision if I do that, and it would be a stretch that would be something to try to do that. But like I said, you're gonna have some action here, over the next few weeks. There to kind of like wind down the summer, and then second half of the year, we're gonna see how some of these other fights kind of like develop and turn out. Like you were mentioning there, Android. We got to see how this second half of the year, shapes itself out. We've had some pretty good fights or pretty good matchups here in the first half of the year. But now the second half, we got to see, because like I mentioned before, there also we're supposed to have Dimitri Bivol and Artur Beterbiev for the undisputed light heavyweight titles. But like I said, I'm not confident at all that Beterbiev makes it there for that scheduled October date. So there's that. Say Richard Hitchens on the August 3rd card. Yeah, that's something that you have to check out with Eddie Hearn on that. Of course, Hitchens had that battle there against Gustavo Lemos, where some people thought Lemos probably had the better of him, but ended up being a decision for Richardson Hitchens. Now, Hitchens, you know what? Actually, Richardson Hitchens should face Subriel Matias. That's who we should fight. Because if you're going to have Subriel Matias not being able to get back his IBF world title, as it looks like Liam Parra is moving on to, face somebody else, right? Go ahead and fight Richardson Hitchens and get that top contender spot back. Then you could have that rematch. You know what I'm saying? Because Liam Parra looks like he's trying to, go ahead and have a fight over in what is it, Australia or something like that. So might as well go up against, like, you have Richardson Hitchens and Subriel Matias. Might as well just have that, whether it's in the Fontainebleau or see if you can have it back in Puerto Rico. Look like they got some good money for that event in Puerto Rico there last month. So, hey, why not just go ahead and have Richardson Hitchens versus Subriel Matias to kind of like say, okay, for Richardson Hitchens, this is your measuring stick. You're fighting a former world champion in Subriel Matias, and for Subriel Matias, it's like, hey, if you can't beat him, I don't know, man. Yeah, Hitchens too skilled, but won't stop Matias from coming forward. Exactly. It's gonna be like, how long can Richardson Hitchens hold off Subriel Matias before Matias is able to get to him? But I mean, hey, Liam Parra was able to do what he needed to do in order to get the decision win over 12 rounds. So, hey, maybe Hitchens could do the same thing. That's the thing about it. That was a pretty good upset for some there with Liam Parra being able to defeat Subriel Matias. What was that, June 15th, right? So, hey, maybe Richardson Hitchens is another style that Matias can't necessarily, handle at this point. But I would like to see it. That's the thing. You have those matchups, go ahead and make them happen. Especially with Eddie Hearn, right? Because you got some people saying like Eddie Hearn is doing things. He's doing these things over here in North America now. He's over there in England now. He's here in North America. Now, he's doing some stuff. Make that fight. Tell you what, give it some time. You just had the whole thing there with Boots Ennis there, against David Avenesian, right? You're saying, hey, we want to bring Boots back in October, November. Okay, do that. Find him an opponent and put Richardson Hitchens versus Subriel Matias in that undercard. There you go. Right? Of course, you gotta have my guy Jalil Major Hackett on that card too. So you gotta keep him active, get it back in the ring. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my guy, Maurice Jones, Four Corners Boxing. What's going on with you? We, like I said, we have this the Box Source podcast here, on a Monday. Wasn't able to do it yesterday. Had been doing some stuff, was out of the concert and that type of stuff. So that's why I like pushed it to today, and just talking about a few other topics there, like I said, with the tank fight. I don't know if you're able to join me here, for the conversation for the main topic, if you can, Maurice. But I might just go ahead and just do this here. What I say, about another 30 minutes. Yeah, maybe another 30 minutes or so. 15 to 30 minutes there. Mo, if you're able to, jump on, or if y'all able to jump on there, to talk about the main topic. But I want to go to the thing here with Matt Gomez, right? Big Bang Zhang versus who? Good question. Good question. He had that stoppage win over Deontay Wilder. I don't think he's going to be able to have a rematch with Joseph Parker. I don't think Zhilei Zhang will be able to be back until, I guess, the next, if they do have that Riyadh season event in Saudi Arabia in October, that they could have Zhilei Zhang on there against Age Kabiel. Because it don't look like Age Kabiel and Joseph Parker are going to be facing each other either. It's almost looking like they're like buddy or whatever it is. So if they're not going to be facing each other, you might as well have Age Kabiel there against Zhilei Zhang. Age Kabiel has had a couple of, 2 impressive victories there in the heavyweight division and those previous Riyadh season cards. So why not go ahead and have him versus Zhilei Zhang? And there you go. All right, my guy is coming up here, joining us here for a little bit. Of course, part of Four Corners Boxing. Fight Night Mo in the building. What's going on with you?
What's up, my brother? Peace and blessings, man. Thank you for having me on. How you doing?
All good, man. All good. Just chopping it up as far as like boxing talk. We didn't necessarily have that much action there, last weekend outside of, what was going down in Tampa. I haven't really gotten to that yet. Like I said, man, I don't know, man. See, my guy, like I said, man, being a media member for, as many years as I've been, I've been able to, get to events and go to events and be, approved for stuff. And I've, gotten people credentialed and all that type of stuff. And I would have had somebody right there, but they weren't necessarily able to make it. And I was like, man, it's an event. You could pretty much cover it, but hey, they couldn't do it. So they had that Tampa event, but let's go back to the main topic there with, like I said, Egis Klimas, manager of Vasyl Lomachenko, stating that, Lomachenko said, you know what, not ready right now to fight Tank Davis coming up later this year. And, it's like saying it wasn't necessarily about money. It was something personal. What's your thoughts about it?
First and foremost, before we get into that, let me give you credit, man. Listen, I just tuned in and I was just listening to your matchmaking. Hey, man, listen, maybe your excellency need to talk to you, man. These guys, you just dropped some good cards, man.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Some hellified cards.
First off, I don't know if I can say that about Turk Al Sheikh, and as I mentioned earlier, with our brother, my brother from Urban Sports Scene, he got brought up I think there in reference to Heyman and Premier Boxing Champions, right? In reference to Turkey Al Sheik in Riyadh season.
Yeah.
And I pretty much like told him like that was a potential, like people were saying that might happen, but given Heyman, and his involvement with certain things and the whole thing with Turkey LLC and who he could be potentially working with as far as like not just, matchmaking and doing things here, but also financing. And if those particular rumors are true, ain't no way that Al Heyman is going to be touching Turkey LLC. So it's a certain person that has been involved in boxing that might still be, out there, involved in boxing. And if that's the case and they're working with Turkey LLC, then there ain't no way that Al Heyman is going to be.
Wait, so there's the what's behind door number one situation, like who's really behind the.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's like that. It's like that old way back villain that you don't see his face. He just black screen, but you hear the voice.
Yeah, you hear the voice. Yep. Yeah, that's kind of like.
Hey, listen. If it is, Uncle Al, stay away from that.
Yeah,
I ain't mad at him.
I don't want to, also, that many parts of it. So, it comes to his fighters directly. Yeah, there's some fighters that are, that have fought, under PBC or, something, but there's PBC and there's Heyman Boxing, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that as well. Like you're saying, like Uncle Al, he's connected. He knows a lot. He been in this for a while as a advisor. He knows a lot of people. You know what I mean? So I'm sure he got his ears and people out there giving him some type of information.
Exactly. I mean, you can have fighters that have fought, under PBC cards that maybe Al Heyman has been involved with, but they can have guys like not necessarily like Tom Brown, but like Louis the Cubist, or like I say with Samson Lukowicz, or Sean Gibbons, right? So, like for example, you got Isaac Cruz, right? Isaac Cruz has been involved with the fights with Tank Davis. He had the fight there with Yuriorkis Gamboa. He had the fight with Giovanni Cabrera. I'll give you three examples where Isaac Cruz was involved in a fight card that was basically like PBC, presented by PBC with Heyman. That's Heyman involved, right? His guy is Sean Knucklehead Gibbons. So Sean Gibbons is part of, Manny Pacquiao Promotions. So they're not necessarily directly involved with Heyman Boxing or anything like that. So they can move, pretty much anywhere they want. That's why you see them in a fight here against Jose Rayo Valenzuela, who is another fighter that has been part of PBC cards. But that don't mean that, they could be completely, dealing with Heyman Boxing. So that tells you something right there,
Yeah. Boxing, man, you love it, but there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes
a lot of stuff behind it that a lot of people don't necessarily know about, and they're like saying, "Oh, but this fight should happen." I'm like, no, it doesn't quite work that way, buddy.
Yeah, and this era of boxing is totally different from what it was back in the day. And I constantly tell people that this era of boxing. Hold on, my brother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had to check out something there real quick. So the thing about it is like a lot of things are tied into how fights could take place, especially fights of a certain caliber, and that a few things could get in the way. And it kind of like, goes into the little thing that, I kind of like brought up when it comes to Vasyl Lomachenko and Gervonta Tank Davis, that maybe it could be money that could be part of the issue. But it's not like, Igis Klimas, who's the manager there for Vasyl Lomachenko, is flat out saying that. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. we there's there's many reasons we can all look at that situation, how it's falling out or why it didn't go through. We could say that Loma didn't want to do it because of his we didn't know based off of his age. He don't know he wants to come into a fight like that, or it could be a situation with money. We all don't fully know the situation. Only he does. Why he didn't do it. We can make the speculations. I could say one thing, you could say one thing, but behind the closed doors, we don't know what's being done behind the the door, closed doors in the negotiation room between him and the promoters. So we'll see how it turns out. Hopefully they do end up fighting. I would like to see that fight happen,
Hmm.
but I still think Tank is gonna win. That's my opinion. People don't have to agree with it, and that's the beauty of boxing. We don't have to agree on certain fighters. We all don't like certain fighters. We all might like certain styles. We might not like certain styles. But hey, that's your opinion in the game of boxing, and just like any other entertainment sport. But
Hmm.
the moving forward, I just want to see 2024 um and 2025 progress and evolve in the realm of boxing. I wanted to become the number one sport again, as it used to be back in the day, because it has fallen off big time with the rankings and the interest of people. So boxing has a lot of things they need to clean up to gain the interest of people back, and the actual um subscribers now, and actually the people that are buying tickets, because a lot
Hmm.
of people are losing interest in it. You and I talk about it, my brother, and it's a lot of things that go on with it that people just don't have interest anymore.
Yeah, and it's something where at this day and age where, like I said, everything is constant now. Everything is instant now. So if it's what, if it's basically like not on your phone or whatever it is or whatnot, then they likely won't be interested in it. Like you're not the days of like sitting down on your couch or whatever it is and watching a whole event through pay per view. Like some of these folks that are kind of like younger than us, they ain't quite interested in that anymore.
Nah, and
So the thing about it is like, what can you do to actually captivate an audience large enough to, be really attracted to something like that? We don't even. But the crazy thing is, like for example, I mean, we're still like, what is it, about 7? Yeah, it's about 7 years removed or so since Floyd Mayweather basically left the game, right?
wow, that
And
long.
pretty much. I mean, he's part of that. Like I said, the 2022 class of the Hall of Fame.
Hall of Famers. Wow.
Yep. So we're like 7 years removed from that, right? And his last fight, of course, his last pro fight was against Conor
Yeah,
McGregor.
pro fight. We got to say that. That
Yeah,
exhibition, people, was pro
yes,
fight.
yeah, it was a pro fight, right? That particular fight got is like, what was that? Almost 4 million pay-per-view buys. Now think
The
about that. 4 million pay-per-view buys, and we were in the era of streaming at that particular point, and it was still able to get 4 million pay-per-view buys. You can't get anywhere close to that now.
But you
Nowhere.
know what? That makes that's what make Floyd such a mastermind when it came to business and his brand and his craft. Because you're talking about Fight 50, right? When he fought Conor McGregor,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
That was the crossover of MMA and boxing. So the fights that we're getting now with Ngannou fighting
Yeah,
Tyson Fury,
Tyson
that's not
Fury.
new to the boxing world. Floyd
Mm-hmm.
was the first to do it. And you got to think about that time when it happened. Floyd was still the top guy in boxing. Conor McGregor was the top guy in MMA.
Yeah,
And
pretty
then
much.
you crossed over two combat sports. So you had the number one guy versus the number one guy and both of the different combat sports. And even right now, and it's held in Las Vegas, like the betting work, the capital of betting.
Yeah.
Like,
So
I think what is that top? I think it's top three, right? I think it's top three
what
of
grossing fight?
the number one grossings in all of Las
Yeah,
Vegas of all time.
yeah,
I don't know what number exactly, but I believe it's in the top three, top five, hands down. And that's crazy to think about.
yeah, yeah.
So, like these things now, are we going to get another fight like that? Will we have another crossover of MMA and boxing to that magnitude?
Yo, nah. I mean
I,
that
I,
particular fight like generated over 50 million
I
uh
don't think so.
in the gate. Floyd versus Pacquiao surpassed that, but still, like you have the most popular fighter in boxing against pretty much the most popular fighter in MMA. That clash of
Right.
heat, so
And even right now, when people do pay-per-view fights, right? This is one thing that I've always said. I know people, I know what the companies are doing, right? But you got to understand, if you guys want people to actually tune in, you got to lower those pay-per-view prices. $80, that's a steep for some people. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Especially if you're a family of four, you got a household, you got children, you got a mortgage, thing like that. Paying $80. Now let's say there's three good fights that happen in a month and a half span. Now you just dropped $250 on three fights practically. When you got other things going on in your life with your family. Now let's say if you lower that price from $80 to $49.99, $50, maybe 40 to 50. Now you're
Mhm.
gonna have a lot more people, a lot more households saying, you know what? I'm gonna purchase this pay-per-view. I'm gonna get this, and your rankings will go up again. But
Mhm.
a lot of people now are like, listen, we don't have to pay for that anymore. We don't have to go and buy the pay-per-view. I
You
got a
don't.
fire stick. I got
Yep.
a fire stick. It's jailbroken. I got all the pay-per-views. I got all of this. And this is
Yeah.
what people are doing. This is just the era that we're living in now. So it's like, what can you do to bring people back where they're going to feel comfortable to purchase pay-per-views again? We just had one of the biggest fights of all of last year, my brother. We
Mhm.
um Terrence Bud Crawford and Errol Spence. Fight's been blowing.
Mhm.
We've been waiting. And then the numbers drop.
Mhm.
And we're like, whoa,
Yeah.
like, wow.
But I mean, but in that particular aspect though, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, that was the most anticipating fight in boxing. But
Right. Of that year, correct.
it's the most anticipated fight in boxing. So it's basically only the people within the sport and that have followed the sport were pretty much like waiting for that. And those two guys weren't at the level that, like, say, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao were, right?
No.
Especially outside of the ring. That's what made like a fight of that magnitude be what it is. That's what makes fights like from years ago, like a Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield, be as big as it is. It's not just because boxing fans knew about who they were. People all over knew who those fighters were. And so
Right.
if you got somebody like a Terrence Crawford coming in there at least when he was doing that, and Errol Spence, where maybe Errol Spence, some people may know Errol Spence outside, him hanging out with rappers, that type of thing, whatever it is, but
Right.
still not enough. And even with the whole thing with Terrence Crawford when he entered the ring there with Eminem,
That
that wasn't enough.
wasn't enough.
You gotta, you gotta, plant the seed basically years before. And I'm talking about as far as like having them be crossover stars years before, so that when that fight does take place, you don't have to worry about the numbers being what they ended up being. You feel me?
So one of the biggest things that you're saying, and I agree with you, my brother, 200%. It goes back to branding. It goes
Yeah,
back to branding. It goes back to being able to be marketable. It goes back to being able to be sellable. And you gotta pick a niche that works for you, and you gotta sell that. You gotta sell that a lot. Mayweather had it. Muhammad Ali had it. Roy Jones had it. A lot of the greats had it, that had that niche, whether it was a sing, whether it was their personality,
yeah,
whether it was a swagger, the attire, like you had that it factor to where people was like, I can't wait to see this next fight. When is the next fight happening? Like, I
yeah.
can't wait to buy it.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, you
that's
don't.
what
Yeah, you don't necessarily have that anymore with a number of these fighters. Like the only ones I pretty much said is like Tank Davis, and Tank Davis, it's kind of like actually at least for me. Well, I'm not necessarily in tune with like the stuff like say for example the Gillian Wallows and all that other stuff, and like I'm not necessarily in tune with all that, but at least with Tank Davis, you see him in those type of avenues, those type of atmospheres. They built that. They pretty much built that with Tank Davis. So
right,
you got to be able to try to do that with some of these other fighters, like say for example, Boots Ennis. You're there in Philadelphia. I mean, he had oh shoot, I'm on the wrong account, but he had like an artist out there that some people could pretty much like catch up with, but like say for example if he was out there with like a Meek Mill or something, or or whoever, that could really boost his profile. But at least right now, given what he was able to do there at the Wells Fargo Center, that he could build off that and get more of a crowd to gravitate towards that, as long as they keep that momentum going and have them stay active, have them stay visible, have them stay relevant, as you said. You
oh,
know,
James Matt Gomez said James Tony versus
oh,
Randy Ortiz.
Randy Couture.
Randy Couture.
Yeah,
Okay, so there we go. All right, thank you for that enlightenment, my brother.
yeah.
See,
So
that's something different. I forgot about that. Wow, that's way back.
yeah,
Shout out to James Tony too, man. We got to interview and meet him when out in Vegas for the Tank and Frank Martin fight. Good dude, man. Good dude,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
Really
yeah,
good dude.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he got a son that's fighting too. He said, "Look out for him." His son is fighting in the 140 division. So
One
James Tony
forty.
Jr. Yeah. So he said he should be. He's on the come up. So yeah.
Word. So yeah, we'll definitely be on the lookout for James Tony Jr. in that joint too. So yeah, yeah, that'll definitely be something. But yeah, I mean, a number of these fighters, like they got to go ahead and stay relevant. Like at least for me, like for example, Shane Mosley Jr. You know,
Yeah.
he's pretty much like built up to a certain point there in the middleweight division, almost as like a building his way back up there in that, and now he has a win over Daniel Jacobs there. That was their super
Look at
middleweight.
that.
So now it's like, okay, what can you do in order to build off of that? Particularly there, if you're going to either be a middleweight or a super middleweight. You got to be able to say, hey, you know what? Now maybe I could contend for this or that, particularly, especially in the middleweight division, where the middleweight division ain't nothing happening in the middleweight division, man. Like you got to be able to do something in the middleweight division, right?
It's quiet. Sometimes you gotta. I be looking at. I gotta sometimes go look at the rankings again. I'll be like, damn, who's the champ there again? Oh,
Yeah,
okay, that's the champ. Right, right,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's crickets, man. It's crickets.
But I
Did
mean, like,
you
but the whole thing was like, at least you're able to see. Well, they had that fight there, man, with Carlos there, man, WBC champ Carlos Adames, man, and man,
Oh, Thomas Agamas versus Gosha?
yeah, against Terrell Gausha, man, and I'm like, man, oh, goodness. I mean, Erislan De Lara, at least Erislan De Lara is, becoming more of an exciting fighter. So maybe they could have Adonis versus Lara in a unification. I say you should go ahead and have that unification, and then hope that the dude Zanabek is able to stay at 160 pounds. But outside of that, man, middleweight division is like, oh my goodness, yo.
It was crazy because middleweights used to be such. Middleweights was a class where you like, damn, you got these dudes in here that get it in. Now it's like you're
Yeah,
probably getting you'd be lucky if you get 5 good fights in a year from that
yeah.
weight class.
But it's like
You
a
know,
percent, they had a little portion where you had Golovkin in there, you had, Jamal Charlo in there, you had Canelo in there, you had Demetrius Andrade in there. But I just named, 4 fighters there, Canelo, Golovkin, Andrade, Charlo. Only Canelo and
Charlo.
Golovkin fought each other out of those 4.
Charlo held that belt for so long. It's like,
Yep. So, but middleweight division has been like, really struggling there, man. Really struggling.
yeah, it's something. Somebody got to come in there and revive it. They got to make this happen. Host a tournament. Do something in that weight class to make it
Yeah.
active.
Middleweight
Because
tournament, is something that kind of do it though. Although, what is it? You had the guy there also that was part of that fight card where Kyron Davis shut it down. Kyron Davis was able to defeat Elijah Garcia there. So he had a great performance in that particular thing there where Elijah Garcia was like quickly rising up the ranks there at middleweight. Like he was up there
yeah,
like number
he
2 and number
he
1 at WBA.
he was known to be a guy that has power. He got grit. He can do some inside work, and excuse me, like you said, was on the verge of being built
Mhm.
up to getting out that prospect realm in a sense to being what you can say a true a contender.
Yeah,
But Kyron Davis, man, he went in there and handled business, man. He went
yeah,
in there and handled business. And shout out to him and his team, bro. They went in there with the game plan and they
yeah.
did their thing. Shout out
Even
to
more
Brett,
than
man.
Lewis, yeah.
Brett, shout out to Brett, man. Salute to Brett, man. I got to see him out there in Vegas. And man, listen, they said he was focused, and he was. He was focused, he was locked in, had a game plan, they stuck to it, and he kind of made Garcia look a little basic. He
Oh
kind
yeah,
of made him
oh
look like, oh,
yeah,
bro,
yeah.
oh y'all forgetting about me. Y'all jumping to the hype train a little too quick. All right, let me show you that I'm still here. That Conron Davis is that guy. He went in there and handled business, and
Yep.
he
I
he
mean,
he fought a great fight.
yeah, but I mean, the thing is like Kyron Davis had competed there in the super middleweight division, and he didn't even go down against David Benavidez. So it's like, hey, if I was able to go through what I went through against David Benavidez, I'm going back down to middleweight, man. No, I
I'm
should be
gonna
able
go
to
in there. I
do
went in
that.
there and I fought the Mexican monster,
Yeah,
and I can
yeah.
and I went in there and showed that I can scrap and I can box. Oh, when I
Hmm.
go back to this next level, oh yeah, y'all getting this work,
Yeah, for
and
sure, for
that's what he
sure. So,
did. He's
so that
another guy that needs to get brought up a lot more too. Like
yeah,
he's a sleeper for sure.
yeah. So they currently have him like number 14 in the WBC and number 12 in the WBA. So they got number 9 in the IBF too. So they
Mm,
pretty much have him positioned pretty well there in the middleweight
okay.
division. You just got to see what they're gonna have next for him. Shout out Mike Gomez here. He said Buddy McGirt had a son that gave it a shot. Yeah. And now you got, of course, little Chavez is trying to come back. Yeah, I'll mention that here in a little bit. I want to see if I could go over those fight cards in Tampa there. Shout out to Champ Ross in the building there. Good idea. Turkey should do some tournaments in certain divisions. We could get some Super Sixes going to build some stars. I mean,
Woo! Listen,
I
listen.
mean, there's like opportunities to do it in some of these divisions, where you won't have that many fighters that may require so much money to to go ahead and fight. So you could have something like that. You could have it in middleweight. They had like for example, they had Hamza Shiraz involved in that 5v5. He's there now as a top contender in the middleweight division. You could probably have something going on in cruiserweight maybe, or like say in a lower division, not necessarily like a super lightweight or maybe even super featherweight. You might have to go down, maybe down to featherweight or something like that, to kind of like, come up with the tournaments. Because like I said, it won't take that much money to get a number of those fighters to go ahead and have those fights and build like a tournament of sorts. But you would have to have like those set dates to do it. Like if you had something at where you do some August 3rd, and then like maybe something it would have to be like November or something. You know what I'm saying? And then a final would be like March of next year. So you could have something like that. But like I said, it just takes all those parties involved to try to work something out and get that done. So we had to see on that. I want to get into that fight card that happened over in Tampa. I have to, I'll get into the whole thing with the 2-piece extra spicy. Here, you know what I'm saying?
Oh man!
But we just have the summary of what went down. You had Jake Paul going up against Michael Perry. There, of course, that was replacement. They still locked down the date, July 20th. It was supposed to be the original date for Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. But of course, Mike Tyson had his health issue. So Jake Paul said, you know what, I'll have an MVP card over in Tampa, Florida, and headline that card because he's been in Tampa, Florida before. He's had good numbers in Tampa. So he just said, hey, you know what? At least for me, I feel like, it doesn't cost that much to, book a venue out there in comparison to, maybe Texas or, of course, like Las Vegas or something like that. So, go back to Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida, have yourself a main event fight there and, just do that. So he was able to score a knockout victory there against Michael Perry there. So, hey, he looks like he's, trying to look forward to a fight against Mike Tyson in November. But, I did mention something earlier in reference to Dimitri Bivol and Artur Beterbiev not necessarily happening in October. As far as like this thing here with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, I don't know about you, Mo, but have we checked like social media and seen much out of Mike Tyson since then?
No, Mike Tyson said something like he's still gonna give Jake Paul the hands though. He said, "I'm gonna still fuck you up."
Yeah, he said,
still gonna fuck you up, but that's Mike Tyson.
He did make a post a couple of weeks ago. He did make a post a couple of weeks, not a couple of weeks ago, a couple of days ago. Where he said he was watching a fight. So
he was at home studying. He was sitting at home. He made a video. I don't know if you saw that. He made a video of him watching the fight, looking, and I'm like, okay, Mike's in the zone. Mike's at the end of the day, Mike's always got that fighter instinct in him. He's got that dog in him, that killer instinct in him, and he ain't gonna back down from it. It's just the fact: is he gonna be number one, healthy enough to participate in a training camp and come out of the training camp healthy and then be medically cleared for the fight? So we shall see. October? No, it's for November, right? November, questionable. We don't know yet because right now we did know the last that he had a hernia. He had a situation that was a hernia. He had to get a procedure done to get that fixed. That usually takes some time to get healed. Now you got to get ready to get into training camp. So if he don't start getting into the gym and start working out, getting cardio in, start hitting the bag, hitting the mitts by next month, I don't see nothing happening in November.
But we'll see what happens at least by August.
Yeah,
Um,
sometime next
I'm
month.
thinking that
If
they might rehash another little thing there with the presser or something like that, to rebuild the thing back up, So by like, late August, early September, see if they'll be back in the gym and doing a whole promo thing, and then by then we'll see if we could get a better idea as to if we're gonna still have the fights that will take place there as the what they scheduled it for November 15th. November 15th
we're
is
15.
for
Okay.
that, so you do have that.
And they
So
were it was supposed to and it was in Dallas, right? Yeah,
yeah,
Dallas
yeah,
at the Cowboys arena.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah. It's
So
all based on Mike's health, and what he's gonna be able to be ready for by November. So
yep. Yeah, that's pretty much all it is there for that. So, um, yeah, all I got, that I had that was pretty much there for that. You do have what was it? Little Chavez, as I call him, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. That had a unanimous decision win over Uriah Hall, right? Um, and that
you
was not
smiling, bro. I already know what you're gonna say.
that to me was not quite the story in reference to this when it comes to Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. What I was like surprised about is a comment by the president of the World Boxing Association, where he says, quote, I am not against a Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. for a championship.
What championship?
Man, I don't know what championship he talking about, but he said a championship.
He about to go make a new belt?
He might
He-
make a belt. He might make a belt for a cruiserweight championship or whatever it is. I don't know, man. Man.
Oh Lord. See, this is where the foolery needs to stop. Because is Jake Paul entertaining? Yes. Has he fought competition? No. What we need to start calling him is the MMA abuser. Because he's out here beating up all these MMA and now the bare knuckle guy. He's out here destroying all these guys that used to be in the combat sports of MMA.
Right.
That's what he's out there doing. He respects the sport. Don't get me wrong. He does respect the sport because he has Coach Wade in his corner. So if you know anything about the trainer, Coach Wade, he's real deal. He has a lot of championship fighters. He has a big history. Jake respects the sport. But as far as his opponents, no. And now Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., with all due respect to the Chavez legacy, we're talking about one of the greatest Mexican fighters of all time, his father.
Mm-hmm.
If his father was still able to whoop ass, he would probably whoop his son's ass for being a disgrace that he's been with bringing to the name of the Chavez name.
Mm.
His son looked terrible, horrible. Boxing source, my brother, if we did an 8-week camp and got you conditioned, you would whoop Cesar Chavez ass.
I probably would.
You would whoop Junior's ass.
I probably
If we
would.
did a 6 to 8 week camp, you would whoop his son's ass.
I would get I would be able to make cruiserweight. I would be able to make cruiserweight if I was in camp. But
Bro, his son looks
it might have
terrible.
to be an extended camp though. But I would be able to make might be able to make cruiserweight.
I don't have any doubt that you would whoop his ass and put on probably a more entertaining fight than what we just saw this past weekend in Tampa.
Oh man.
And I'm gonna leave it as that because
man, yeah.
When I heard his son make the announcement who he wanted to fight next, I said, "Oh God." There's a reason he's fighting cruiserweight.
Oh yeah. Shout out to Champ Ross, man. It says the boxing source versus Lil Chavez. I call him Lil Chavez. And a 6-round bout. I got TBS as the favorite.
There you go. See, the people have spoken, bro. We could do a promo video, man.
Yeah,
We could cut
promo
this
video,
promo
man.
video.
Yeah, do like a brief thing there where I'm in the gym working out. It said and then I'm gonna call out Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. or something.
Listen,
Oh,
telling you, man. I'm telling you.
yeah, yeah. I don't know why they're trying to even entertain that idea. Like that's just
It's
bad.
this, bro. It all comes down to the money, bro. Because you know why? Like I just said, even though Jake Paul, he's not a quote unquote professional fighter.
Yo,
He's into the sport and he
uh-huh.
sells. He has a major following. So this is what that sanctioning body is looking at. Damn, Jake Paul has a major following. He's got supporters. We can make a hell of a lot of money with him. It doesn't
Right,
matter who we fight. He could fight the Michelin Man, and I bet you people will go buy a ticket just because it's Jake Paul's name and he has the following. So them
right.
putting together Cesar Chavez, they know that's an easy kill. They know that's gonna be an easy
Yes,
W.
yeah, easy money grab there. Easy money
That's
grab.
easy.
Like I mean, like you were saying there with like I say, Lil Chavez, right? He goes he goes through a 6-round bout with Uriah Hall, who basically just had one fight against Le'Veon Bell that was 2 years ago.
Bro, thank you. And you look basic as hell.
And 30, hey, Uriah Hall is just what 4 years younger than me at this point. And you win a full 6 rounds?
Yo,
Hold up.
bro, listen, tune in Wednesday night, bro. We gonna promote the promo, bro. Four
You
corners,
know
we
what?
gonna promote the promo, bro.
You know
You
what?
versus you versus Junior. We gonna get all the boxing
Oh,
source. The
yo,
TB. Listen, TBS family. If you watch it right now, put a boxing glove or a heart. If you want to see the source versus Chavez Jr., man, we gonna promote this, man.
yo, I'm gonna cut that. I'm gonna cut that one, man. We go post that. We go post it on social media, man. If y'all want to see the boxing source going up against, and like I say, Little Chavez, Julio
Little
Cesar
Chavez.
Jr. Oh man, in the 6 rounder.
Let's do a poll, man. Let's get it, my brother.
Oh, hey, listen, man. If they got Chavez there signed with MVP, put me on the card in November.
Listen, tell him, and know what? Just and
Put
you
me
and
on the card.
you're gonna be the A side. Tell him, dude, we're doing it in your hometown, man. Bring it over to DC.
Yeah, we're gonna bring it to DC.
Bring it
Nah,
to DC.
man. Nah. I want this. I want this. I want this in front of AT&T Stadium with the fans at AT&T Stadium.
Sellout crowd.
Hey, let's do it, man. We that yeah, but that's just crazy, man. You know what? I'm lucky. I ain't. Yeah, I wasn't able to watch it. I was, of course, at a local card. Shout out to Jeter Promotions card in Hanover, Maryland.
Shout out
This
to
past
Jeter
Saturday.
Promotions. I saw the
So,
work. Good work, my
so
brother.
yeah, so I was able to, be out there. You had, of course, Michael Fox that was involved in that fight card. You had Emmanuel Lean that was in the main event. You had, a number of fighters there that were part of that fight card in Hanover, Maryland. So I was, just partaking in that. He said, Matt Gomez says, let Mark Brennan train you. Actually, you know what? If I tell a certain person about this whole little promo, I'm gonna cut that and I'm gonna send a promo. There might be another trainer. I'm gonna see if they'll be able to do something. But I don't know. I'll have to travel over to Texas maybe to see if I'll be able to make that happen. But also, we have a number of folks over here in this area. Of course, you got Headbangers Jim. of course, there. And of course, you got Upton Gym.
We going to be more. We going to the dungeon, baby.
Hey,
Get the two masterminds behind you.
we
They got
pretty
that
much
formula for you, Sauce. They got the formula.
Yeah, so we will be able to make that happen. Like I said, get me down there to make 200 pounds and then play Julio Cesar Chavez.
I'm gonna be there, baby. You tell
Oh,
me we gonna be there, baby. Four
oh
corners.
man.
We gonna do the commentary. We about to do it up.
Hey,
Promo
man.
videos, all that. We coming
Yeah,
to training camp. We
hey,
about to turn up.
listen. If we you know what? Yeah, like if the Florida State Athletic Commission was able to approve a fighter that had 60 professional fights going up against a guy that had one professional fight, and it was in America. This is in Mexico. That they don't. This is like in
What?
Mexico. This isn't in the UK. No, this was a pro fight in the US, in Florida, that they were able to approve a guy that had 60 pro fights.
That's
And
crazy.
well, but the thing about it is too, like both of those guys were pretty much around the same age, like 38 and 39 years old. So I guess maybe that was it. But yeah, first professional fight against Julio Cesar.
But listen, bro, we can get it going because they just had it. Was it a couple months ago? The transgender boxer that
Yeah,
came in forward and
yeah,
got KO'd.
got
Got
full,
KO'd.
got
Went transitioned from women to men and went into the men's division and got slumped.
yeah,
Google Gaga Night Night
yep.
pacifier. So listen, we can get these licenses, man. We just gotta talk
Oh
because
yeah.
TBS versus Junior.
Listen. All they need is enough money. All they need is enough money, and they'll be able to approve it. Like, come on,
So when you want to fight, champ, you want to fight around the 2024? You want to fight the beginning of the new year, 2025?
No, man, I was saying, man, hey, if like I said, if Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is there involved with MVP, man, put that thing at AT&T Stadium. Like, I want to be able to beat him.
Oh, so you want to be so pretty much you're trying to get on the undercard of Jake and Tyson?
Yeah, I'll get on the undercard of Jake and Tyson. Let's do it.
Let's do it, baby.
You're supposed to have Jake, you're supposed to have Jake and Tyson, and you're supposed to have that rematch with Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor on it. So, hey,
that's a historic night.
Put it on the card.
That's a historic night.
Listen, I'll take the place. I'll have the fight with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., and I'll take the place of the fight that probably should have happened with Ashton Sylve and Floyd Schofield Jr., because we saw what happened to Ashton Sylve, 2-piece special and a biscuit. I'm like, oh man. And the thing about it is that, from what I was hearing, Silva was winning the fight, man. He was
No, bro. He was winning every round, bro. Every round. And he kept his head up on a swivel. He threw a punch, dropped his hand, and kept his head straight instead of moving, and got hit with a 2-piece special,
with
bro.
The 2-piece. So he got hit with, that last knockdown that
almost 3-piece.
Yeah, it was almost a 3-piece because but
he missed the last one.
He missed the last one. He was already out by then. It was almost like the whole thing that Devin Haney got caught with in that last knockdown that he had that he took in April, where he was like in the close quarters. He had his hand down and just caught the 2-piece that put him down to the canvas. Here, he got the same thing. Ashton Sylve got the same thing. But you know what though? And here we are. We're on Monday morning. They had the whole thing with Monday morning quarterbacking. I don't know if it was something where they just felt like, in a matchmaking standpoint, that they felt like, even though this guy was undefeated, um, and he had like a number of KOs, but a majority of his fights were like over in Canada and in Mexico, but at the very least, they had this guy ranked. He was
What?
ranked. Yeah, he was
Wow.
ranked. You know,
I didn't
um,
even know he was ranked.
he was ranked at number 13 at the very least in the IBF. You know,
Okay.
but I guess that was like a little bit of a. I guess they would have to try to match him up there with that, because why would you would have had Ashton Silva going up against Floyd Schofield when Floyd Schofield was already ranked as high as like number 3 or so when they initially made that matchup. He was number 3 in the WBA, right?
Yeah,
So
that was
that's like,
that was not a good fight.
yeah, that like that's why I was saying, I was like, you wouldn't want to have a matchup like that for Ashton Silva. He wouldn't necessarily be ready for that at this particular point of his career. Like, nah.
You need
So
Ash. He needed to fight guys that are like in the top
like 50,
25. Yeah,
25,
top 50.
maybe
25 to 50.
50,
Yeah. You
but
need that guy, those type of guys to build him up to get experience because he doesn't have enough.
yeah, you don't have enough there. So like going up against Floyd Schofield, who they had already put him in a like, what I would say, like a almost like a step up type of bout or something like that. But he had already won like a version of the WBA title thing. I think it was last year that was part of that tank card that was over in Las Vegas last April. And then after that, he was still, active. He still had, a number of fights. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
he got like some continental belts or some stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. It was
He's got
basically
those
like
belts
that.
that are putting you in the rankings.
Yeah.
Those are the
So,
ranking belts. He got
so he
those.
had he had check it. He had 4 fights last year. 4, you know, and then he got involved in the fight against the story Suero, where Suero was just wrestling and throwing low blows, all types of low blows and everything like that.
Yeah, that fight
So
was crazy.
yeah,
And that's
so
I think that's the same fight he got cut too, right? Didn't he get that nasty cut?
nah, it wasn't that same fight. It was like, I
Or
think
wasn't
that was
that fight?
the fight after. I think it
The
was the
fight.
Aspen Woods fight, maybe. But
Yeah,
yeah,
he had I remember that fight too.
yeah. So yeah, that was the thing, man. So you have somebody that was like in a different caliber, and you wanted to go ahead and fight for Schofield. I was like, nah, that just didn't look, all too good. And now here you are against Lucas Bahdi, and you get caught with, that shot. That's a definite
Yeah.
setback for him.
Yeah, it's sad to see, but it's the sport. Don't keep your head on the swivel, man. You throw your punch, you move, head movement, man. Get out the way. Don't just stay there with your your guard down and your head still there. And he made the mistake. And these are the things that like you're saying right now. You can't fight a guy fighting a guy like Schofield and guys like that. They're gonna make you pay just like that because he still make mistakes. He's still
Mhm.
learning his craft. He still has to get better and he's still got to get put in situations where he's going to be tested. And this guy Lucas, he was a surprise. He was definitely a surprise because he was losing
Mhm.
every round. The scorecard, they had him losing every round. But that's the thing we always say in boxing: all it takes is one
Mhm.
punch, and for Lucas, it took two, and
Yeah,
that was it. They changed the
yeah,
whole game, and now they got him. That could they saying right now that's knockout of the year, knockout of the year
yeah.
candidate.
Knockout of the year candidate. That's right.
And
Right.
one thing and I know, and those that are on the chat, I watch boxing. One of the most devastating knockouts when a person gets knocked out is when they hit their head straight on the canvas. And
Hmm.
he landed face first.
Face first.
It was like
Yeah,
Apollo Creed versus Drago when
yeah,
he fell down like that.
yeah.
And it was scary because when you seen him, he was celebrating, and the ref stopped
Yep.
Lucas from celebrating
Yep.
because H2O was like non-responsive for a moment. They were
Hmm.
shaking him. So if you watch the tape, you see the ref calling over the medics, like, we need medics in here
Quick.
immediately.
Yep.
So that's always a scary factor. I'm thankful. I'm glad that H2O was able to get back up. He was responsive. He didn't have any medical injuries from
Nope.
this fight and from that knockout. So, that's a blessing to him and his family. And, it's just something to learn from moving forward.
Yep, definitely something for moving forward, and like I was saying, I guess it was something to the point where they just matched them up with somebody that they felt that they would be able to try to get, up there in the rankings or enter in the rankings there at 135, but just didn't necessarily, keep their
What they say? A
eyes and cross their T's in this one.
cherry pick going wrong.
Could be a cherry pick going on, but also something where he just wasn't completely sharp in defensive awareness. And once you mess up in that, all it takes is just a split second, and you're done when it comes to that. So definitely sit back for Ashton Sylve there, and we just got to see what they're gonna do as far as like where they're gonna put him at next. The other thing I wanted to get into on this fight card, mainly was thing there with Amanda Serrano. Uh,
Ooh.
had like a quick win there against Stevie Morgan. Morgan, pretty much is from the Tampa area there at 35 there, but she had, what was it like, been campaigning in the lightweight division, had some minor titles there in the lightweight division in her career. There
Yeah.
ended up getting stopped by Amanda Serrano. So for Amanda Serrano, that is her 31st stoppage victory or KO victory of her professional career there, and that is that was 50 pro fights there for Amanda Serrano.
And
Well, she was
Amanda.
coming off of where she could have had her 50th fight in Puerto Rico, but then the whole thing with the eye came up, and that canceled that particular fight. So she got back in there, had the quick bout there in Tampa, gets the win, and that has her set up for the eventual fight rematch with Katie Taylor. That's supposed to be in November, but apparently there was something going on in reference to, I guess, her PR team, that kind of hinted at Amanda Serrano kind of being the greatest woman of all time.
Yeah. I
Uh,
heard about this.
and of course, when that kind of spread out there a little bit, it got to, of course, Clarissa Shields. And you know, so of course she had said something about it. And so there was a little bits of back and forth between Amanda Serrano and Clarissa Shields. And of course, like they're both in, divisions. Like I said, you got Amanda Serrano there in the super lightweight division, been floating around lightweight, featherweight, super lightweight, super featherweight, like all that type of stuff. And this weekend, you're gonna have Clarissa Shields fighting for a heavyweight title. But it's like, all this back and forth between these two, and Amanda Serrano kind of like went at it, respectfully and that type of stuff, to where it's like, hey, I've given her respect, always given her respect, and she basically saying that she's in her own lane, and if I don't dis my opponents, I won't disrespect her. but that's where Clarissa kind of like said, "Hey, your team is disrespectful. Like you do this and you say this and whatever it is. So, like, if you're gonna post that, then why would you like have your team post something that says woke status or whatever it is, or like it said what it was where it said that when he announced his signing to MVP, and it said like sincerely boxing's quote. I'm like, oh man, here we go. But it
Yeah.
that's the thing about it. Like I said, Clarissa Shields has an upcoming bouts in coming up. She's gonna be there in her home area of Detroit. There, so she will be fighting for the heavyweight title. But all this stuff to me is like you really don't need to like bring up all this type of stuff. Like you got your upcoming fight. You're gonna be fighting for yet another world title in another division there, where you're gonna see if you can keep your undefeated record. So yeah, I just say focus on that. Because if you have somebody in Amanda Serrano that's not really concerned about all that, then why keep it going? It's like, okay, she basically apologized, whatever it is, and that should have been that. So it is what it is on that front.
Pretty much. Pretty much. I look at it as like you said, number one, you have a fight coming up this weekend. You're moving up to the heavyweight division. Focus on your task at hand. Don't focus on what's going on social media. Um, and it's not like Amanda wrote it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Her team wrote it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Her team wrote it. She might not have been aware of that,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
So it's not something for you to attack her about. I think something like that can always be talked about amongst one another. And I know they have each other's number because they did show, I saw on Twitter, Amanda and Clarissa did speak when Amanda didn't fight her fight in Puerto Rico. And they
Mm-hmm.
had a nice, intimate text message. They showed that. This is on Clarissa's Instagram. Well, I mean, not
Yeah.
Instagram, Twitter, now
Yeah.
known as X. It's on her X page. And she's posted the conversation amongst the two where Amanda said that she's the GOAT. And it was, it seemed like a sisterhood and a heartfelt thing, conversation. So, they do have mutual respect for one another. I know Amanda does as well. But I look at them both being two of the greatest women boxers of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Two of the.
Right.
Now, would I say the best ever? No. They're two of the best ever. Because if I'm saying two of the best ever in history, then that means you're not acknowledging the pioneers who paved the way, like Layla Ali and Wolf,
Yep.
just to name two of the Hall of
Christy
Famers.
Martin.
Christine Martin, thank you. There was one I'm like forgetting. Christina Martin, like those are goats of women's boxing. They paved the way, you know. So they're some of the greatest female boxers ever as far as their accomplishments. And they've also fought in multiple sports. Chris Clarissa Shields, she's fought MMA and boxing.
Mm-hmm.
Amanda Serrano, she's fought jiu-jitsu, MMA, and boxing. So she's three sports, you know. Now you got Clarissa, who's an Olympian, undisputed two-time, right? Amanda Serrano, undisputed champ, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest sellers financially in women's boxing as far as money making, multimillionaire. Has one of the most historic fights in all of women's history in Madison Square Garden with her and Katie Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Have done phenomenal numbers. Like, I think their numbers, was in the top 10 of all time of all of sellout fights. I mean, as far as major numbers in boxing history of Madison Square Garden. 2 women, top 10
Yeah.
revenue, gate. Not talking just pay per view. We're talking about at the arena, people. Like,
Yep.
so, respect her accolades as well. You guys both have done that. You both are trailblazers. You're both in your own lane. We're talking about a woman who's a 7-time a 7-time champion. So I love both. I like what both of these women bring to the sport. I like both of their styles. I like both of their fights. I watch both of them when they fight. I'll continue supporting and watching both of them. So this whole thing of, oh, I'm the greatest, I think it just needs to be stopped. I think it's petty. And I think Clarissa, dumb it down, relax. It ain't that serious, and you guys both continue to build the brand of women's boxing and take it to where it needs to be. You know what I mean? And also, let's not forget Amanda Serrano also is a pioneer because she's one of the first women in the history of boxing that's on record that I can recall that has fought 3-minute rounds.
Yeah.
She gave up her belt because of that. Because the WBC said they wouldn't support it. Mauricio Solomon, and she got stripped of her title. And she fought in a 3-minute round fight. 3-minute rounds fight. So, put respect on her name too. Both women are great fighters. Both women are doing the damn thing. And let's not say one is more better than the other. You guys are both doing your thing. And you both GOATs. In my book, in my opinion, you're both GOATs. And continue being great. Continuing being trailblazers and keep elevating the sport of women's boxing. And leave the egos at the door and keep being great women and leaders and elevating. That's it, man.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I mean, when it's like two fighters that are nowhere close to being anywhere near each other, you know what I'm saying? Then it's like no point to try to, at least for me, put it out there in public or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
in that particular case, it's like, you know what, just go off to the side and just say something off to the side, and not blast it out, for everybody, especially when, as you mentioned, it's not like you haven't talk with Amanda Serrano, ever. So it's like you could have said, you know what, what's up with this? Like, why is this being put out there instead of like, blasting it out? So, but
Now,
that's kind of like, how things are, I think, these days. But I mean, for me, it's like it is what it is on that. Maybe
yeah.
they'll be able to sell something out later on down the line and everything like that.
I
Shout out to
hope so.
my Platinum Alkaline Water, of course. Rise family, JBT family, and all that. Salute to you, man.
Oh, shout out to Platinum Alkaline. Yo, Alkaline, I need that water, bro. I need that water, man. I heard that's the hottest water on the streets.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you gotta be able to supply. You gotta be able to supply the product to the people. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
man. Need that like my man Bobby Boucher said at Waterboy. I need that high quality H2O.
Yep. So yeah, you gotta be able to provide that, man. But yeah, like I was saying, there's certain ways to go at it. Particularly like, at least in this case here with Amanda Serrano, because this definitely ain't like, the whole thing with Alicia Baumgartner. So you definitely don't have to worry about all that. So with Amanda Serrano, it could be, kind of different. I mean, yeah, you're the growth, you're outspoken, you're, there, out, just being in the spotlight and that type of thing. Like, we saw Clarissa Shields a couple of weeks ago. She was at the fights in Newark, and she had a lot of attention around her, during that, fight card in Newark. So that kind of like goes into her aura as far as like being a star of some sort or some capacity. But there's like ways that you could carry yourself in certain situations. Like you could be brash and braggadocious, towards certain some people if they're basically the same thing. But if they're like calm, cool, and collected, and all that type of stuff, and you don't really need to do all of that because
I
ain't nothing
agree.
like nothing else or nothing more can basically come out of this situation. It ain't gonna lead into no fight. Definitely ain't gonna lead to no fight.
Oh,
So
that's not happening.
what else could you do at this particular point?
What you gonna say? Oh, ticket sales?
Yeah,
No,
right.
my ticket sales. Come
No,
on, like, yeah,
no,
let's leave that alone, man.
yeah, just leave it alone. So yeah, that's basically what it is, for that particular thing there. So I mean, like I said, hopefully they, kind of like sort that out, whatever it is, and just move on from it. But yeah, that's mainly it from what I got here this week on this particular Boxing Source podcast. There, of course, shout out to Fight Night Mo of Four Corners Boxing. There, of course, as we're doing a whole matchmaking thing. Like we're gonna work on the seeing if we could, get in there for November, man. Like I said,
Listen,
against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., man.
listen, I'm promoting you on the podcast this Wednesday night, man. Just know you come on the show, me and the team gonna promote it, man. We're gonna push this fight November, baby.
Yeah,
November, Dallas is going down.
like I said, yeah, November. If we're going for November 15th, man, we gotta get in the gym. Gotta get in the gym real quick. You know what I'm saying? Because
CBS versus Junior.
yeah, we gotta get in the gym so we could get to getting in weight because I don't want to necessarily have a fat camp going into this particular fight. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta get started and get started early on that particular front. Uh,
Listen,
yeah, so yeah, we're closing this thing out here. Shout out to everybody that was listening live. If you're listening to replay, greatly appreciate it. If y'all can just hit the like button. If you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate it here at the Boxing Source. And y'all be sure to check out 15 rounds there with Four Corners Boxing, of course, with Fight Night Mo and the folks over there at Four Corners Boxing. Wednesdays usually scheduled at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, so y'all be sure to check that out. But with that being said, that's all I got here for y'all, man. And I'll catch y'all later, man. Peace out.
peace.